Good morning, everyone. Today I will be reporting about Chapter 7, Analyzing Business Markets. The business market consists of all the organizations that acquire goods and services used in the production of other products or services that are sold, rented, or supplied to others. The major industries making up the business market are agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, mining, manufacturing, construction, transportation, communication, public utilities, banking and finance and insurance, distribution, and services. Business marketers face many of the same challenges as consumer marketers. In particular, understanding their customers and what they value is of paramount importance to both. This chapter, we will be focusing on the five subtopics. The first one is, what is organizational buying? The differences between business and consumer markets, buying situations for business buyers, participants in the business buying process, and lastly, the purchasing or procurement process. So let's define organizational buying. Organizational buying refers to the decision-making process by which formal organizations establish the needs for purchased products and services and identify, evaluate, and choose among alternative brands and suppliers. The business market consists of all the organizations that acquire goods and services used in the production of other products or services that are sold, rented, or supplied to others. More money and items change hands in sales to business buyers than consumer buyers. The differences between business and consumer markets. So there are five differences between business and consumer markets. The first one is fewer larger buyers. The business market normally deals with fewer, much larger buyers than the consumer market. The next one is close supplier-customer relationship. Because of smaller customer bases and the importance and power of larger customers, suppliers are frequently expected to customize their offerings to individual business customer needs. The third one is professional purchasing. Business goods are often purchased by trained purchasing agents who must follow their organization's purchasing policies, constraints, and requirements. The fourth one is multiple buying influences. More people typically influence business buying decisions. And lastly, multiple sales calls. It takes 4 to 5 calls to close an industrial sale. So there are three types of buying situations for business buyers. The first one is straight rebuy. In a straight rebuy, the purchasing department orders supplies such as office supplies on a routine basis and chooses from suppliers on an approved list. Out suppliers attempt to offer something new or take advantage of dissatisfaction with current supplier. The second one is modified rebuy. The buyer in a modified rebuy wants to change product specifications, prices, delivery requirement, or other terms. The in suppliers become nervous and wants to protect the account. The out supplier sees an opportunity to propose a better offer to gain some business. And lastly, the new task. A new task purchaser buys a product or service for the first time. The greater cost or risk, the larger the number of participants, and the greater the information gathering, the longer the time to make a decision. The business buyer makes the fewest decision in the straight rebuy situation and the most in the new task situation. There are 7 participants in the business buying process. The decision unit of a buying organization is called the buying center. The buying center includes all members of the organization who play any of the following 7 roles in the purchase decision process. The first one is the initiators. Initiators usually are the users or others in the organization who request that something must be purchased. Next one is users, those who will use the product or service. In many cases, the users initiate the buying proposal and help define the requirements. The influencers. The influencers are the people who influence the buying decision, often by helping define specifications and providing information for evaluating alternatives. Technical personnel are particularly important influencers. next one is the deciders. People who decide on product requirement or on suppliers. The fifth one is the approvers. People who authorize the proposed actions of deciders or buyers. The next one is the buyers. The buyers are the people who have formal authority to select the supplier and arrange the purchase terms. Buyers may help shape product specifications, but they play their major role in selecting vendors and negotiating. In more complex purchases, buyers might include high-level managers. The last one is the gatekeepers. People who have the power to prevent seller and or information from reaching members of the buying center. For example, these are the examples of gatekeepers: purchasing agents, receptionists, and operators. So there are 7 purchasing or procurement process. The first one is problem recognition, general need description and product specification, supplier search, proposal solicitation, supplier selection, order routine specification, and lastly, performance review. The first process is problem recognition. The buying process begins when someone in the company recognizes a problem or a need that can be met by acquiring a good or service. The recognition can be triggered by internal or external stimuli. The internal stimuli might be a decision to develop a new product that acquires new equipment and materials. The external stimuli may be triggered when a buyer gets a new ideas at trade shows, sees an ad, or receives a call from a sales representative who offers a better product or better price. The second process is general need description and product specification. The buyer determines the needed items, general characteristics, and required quantity. For standard items, this task is simple. For complex items, the buyer will work with others engineers, users to define the characteristics such as reliability, durability, or the price. Business marketers can help by describing how their products met or even exceed the buyer's needs. The third one is the supplier search. The buyer next tries to identify the most appropriate suppliers through trade directories, contacts with other companies, trade advertisement, trade shows, and the internet. Companies that purchase over the internet are utilizing electronic marketplaces in several forms: catalog sites, vertical markets, pure play auction sites, spot or exchange markets, private exchanges, barter markets, and buying alliances. The fourth process is the proposal solicitation. The buyer next invites qualified suppliers to submit proposals. Then, if the item is complex or expensive, the proposal will be written and detailed. After evaluating the proposals, the buyer will invite a few suppliers to make formal presentations. The fifth process is supplier selection. Before selecting a supplier, the buying center will specify and rank desired supplier attributes, often using supplier evaluation models. To develop compelling value propositions, business marketers need to better understand how a business buyers arrive at their valuations. Companies are increasingly reducing the number of their suppliers. And lastly, there is even a trend towards single sourcing. The sixth process is the order routine specification. After selecting the suppliers, the buyer negotiates the final order, listing the technical specifications, the quantity needed, the expected time of delivery, return policies, warranties, and so on. Many industrial buyers lease heavy equipment such as machinery and trucks. The leasing gains a number of advantages such as latest products, better service, the conservation of capital, and some tax advantages. And lastly, the performance review. The buyer periodically reviews the performance of the chosen suppliers using one of three methods. The first method is the buyer may contact end users and ask of their evaluations. The second one is the buyer may rate the supplier on several criteria using a weighted score method. And lastly, the buyer may aggregate the cause of poor performance to come up with adjusted cost of purchase, including the price. So that's all for this chapter. Again, thank you for listening. I hope all of you were able to understand anything I said. Thank you. Have a great day.